Well, welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and today's car is the BMW M3 CS. This supposedly is the ultimate version of the M3 CS, so the magic BMW add to their cars when it's sort of the final edition with all the trick bits on it and usability. Think back to M5 CS, and there's been several variants of M3 CS and all very desirable. Now, this car is also quite a premium over the standard M3 competition. We only get the competition version here in the UK. That is priced at £84,070 list. This car starts at £115,900. So this is £31,830 more than the regular M3 competition. That's quite a premium, but you do get quite a lot of extra bits on it as well. It also has a top speed of 188 miles an hour and an extra 40 horsepower, 550 horsepower. Let's go and have a closer look and see what you get for that extra premium. Well, there's absolutely no mistake in the M3 CS from the front. It's a very different look to the regular M3 competition, and I don't think it's a very good look. There's no point beating about the bush. It's a bit of a mess, I think, how this car looks. It's all too fussy, and it's really not helped by the colour of this car, which is called Frozen Solid White, which is a sort of matte colour. You get, on the CS, you get a carbon bonnet, and they show that by leaving the carbon bare on the bonnet here. And you also can tell this is the CS by its badging. This is fairly naff badging here with sort of red at the background. It doesn't work. A red pinstripe around there as well, and a more open grille, and all this carbon work here, and then this extended splitter that peaks around the side and is dead easy to clout and will be very expensive if you hit that if you were parking this car and you weren't really paying attention. But overall, I think it's just awful, the look of this car. I look at the cars in here and I think the face of a car is really important. I open the garage door in my garage and I look round. Yeah, I mean, we've got F40s, the Countach, the 911, Spada, Elan. They all look fantastic. I want to go and drive them. And if I opened the door and saw that gaping at me, I just find it embarrassing. BMW used to be about elegance, and this car has just lost its elegance. Fortunately, things get better as you move round the car. Now, you can get these wheels in a sort of grey finish. Here they're this sort of bronzy gold colour. Incredibly fussy design. I cleaned this car and I just gave up on the wheels because they are impossible, you know, unless you've got a day to actually clean the wheels. Hiding behind them are the carbon brakes on this car. The carbon ceramic brakes are an option, £7,295. So actually, as you see this car here, this car is £123,250. Now, I spec'd an M3 competition as close as I could get to this car, and it came out at 101,130 because you do get quite a number of options as standard on the CS. So it's a 22,000 premium really over a standard M3. One of the things you do get as standard are the carbon bucket seats in here. These are, you know, an acquired taste. They're great when you're sitting in them, but make sure that if you have a partner, that they're happy to sit in these seats, because you are reminded every time you get in and out of this car, they're really quite high side bolsters, and you just think, do I really want this in my usable car? But they do have advantages. There is a good reason for ticking the box. Carbon mirrors on this. Carbon roof is actually standard on all M3 now. It's not exclusive to this CS version. Further around the back, there are some other changes. Now, on the CS, you get this little extra spoiler in carbon as well. More of this naff badging. I don't know what BMW are thinking. It just doesn't work. It just looks plastic and cheap. This sort of ultimate version of this CS and this red detailing, it's just not good. And you also get a standard carbon splitter, which I don't think does anything and feels a bit cheap, even though it's this carbon fibre wonderfulness. Huge, great exhaust as ever on the M3, but made in titanium on this car. Interesting, this car is not that light really. If you look at the spec, they claim it's 20 kilos lighter than the standard M3 competition at 1765 kilos. But I checked, and the current competition X-Drive is 1780 kilos. So I would suggest it's nearer 15 kilos lighter than the standard M5 competition, which isn't great really. And I also look back to the first M3 I had in the garage, and that was the two-wheel drive version, and that was 1730 kilos, so 35 kilos lighter than this, but yes, it was two-wheel drive rather than with the X-Drive. Anyway, I digress. Big boot, as you'd imagine on this car, and the seats do flip down on it. You've got these little handles here, you can put the seats down. Incredibly practical, and well done for BMW for doing that. But let's have a look at the business end and the engine. Up it comes. Now, yeah, lots to notice down here. On a regular M3 competition, you get this in steel sort of bracing here. On the CS, you get this rather lovely forged bit of aluminium that does the same job and just looks a lot better and more expensive, shall we say, than the regular M3 has. But the engine is fundamentally the same. The only thing that's changed is this additional 40 horsepower to a peak of 550 horsepower, and they've done that by adding boost. So this boost at 1.1 bar as against 0.7 bar for the standard engine. But interestingly, torque does not improve. It's still 650 Newton meters torque and starts at 2750 RPM, I think it is. But I suspect that is a gearbox limit, torque limit, and that's why that hasn't improved, even though the boost pressure has gone up. Nice other little detail, obviously the carbon bonnet, and a lovely detail here that you have the M sort of profiled in the carbon bonnet. So very nicely done, and that engine is spectacularly good, 6-cylinder HAL, which I think the best thing we do now, take it outside and take it for a drive. You sort of wriggle into the seats. I mean, it's not helped by being a 4-door, and that means you've got the B-pillar here, so you sort of go round that to where you sit down in these seats. But once you're in these seats, they are good, and I've done a lot of miles in this car, as I'll come to in a moment. Yeah, what are you met with? Well, the CS gets this latest dash, this one-piece iPad. That first M3 competition I drove had it in 2 parts, but this is the new dash. And all the climate stuff has gone on screen, gone on the little buttons here. It's all into the menu if you want to adjust anything, all set up there. And you get this lots of carbon here in this CS model, this CS here. We discovered, I've been on a test with Evo magazine with this car, my Project 8 and the Alpha GTA, Alpha Julia GTA. And it was a terrific 2 days we enjoyed with all 3 cars. You're going to see it in a future Evo magazine, and Jeffro did the test, but I joined them, and it was fantastic having those 3 cars together. One of the things we discovered in this car after a petrol stop, you don't get any cup holders in a CS, so if that is something you buy your cars and you demand a cup holder, don't buy the CS. So yeah, someone bought a coffee and suddenly realised you had to jump in the Project 8 so you could have a cup holder. Anyway, apart from that, yeah, you don't get a cover for your charging on here, and you get all the menu normal stuff as you've come to know in the M3 competition anyway. Lovely paddles, there's a little bit of rubber behind them, carbon fibre. This has the suede wheel, which I have to say just enhances the thickness of the BMW wheel. It just seems to add an extra millimetre or 2 that you do notice. But yeah, great driving position. One of slight disappointment at the M5 CS, what I loved about that car was the fact you've got 4 individual bucket seats. The back seat was also bucket seats, and this is just a regular bench, but it has 3 seat belts in the back, so it is a 5-seater. Anyway, let's get going, start the engine. A little bit of a growl, and it's the torque converter version. I nudged it once, I'm into drive, and this is its normal mode of setting off. I've got to let the engine warm up. It's still rev limited because it's not up to temperature. So yeah, I'm going to head out onto some better roads, and you'll join me in a moment. That car sets off in a sort of normal mode. This is, as you can see here, efficient comfort. No idea if that is actually piped in, that sound, that straight six sound, but it's not a bad sound for a turbocharged engine. It sounds a little bit naff outside, I have to say, but you can thank turbos and gas particulate filters for that one. And yeah, I measured it on my normal bit of road. It's quite quiet in here for such an extreme car, so 71, 72 decibels, which is pretty good. Other things, you have to get to like this dash. It seems to be universal in BMW land. They've gone all into this rather than having the sort of binnacle, but I do have heads-up display as standard on this car, and I'm a big fan, as you know, of head-up display. Other things you notice, just a slightly tougher ride. M3 competition is not exactly super smooth, but there is just this tautness with this car, and I'll mention it again, but just the electric steering you do notice from the off. I'm not going to run through all the setup modes again. I've done it for the M2 and I did it on the M3, but it is great that you have the M1 and the M2 selection. So I'm going to select M1, and I have to do that twice to confirm, because I've got it in four-wheel drive sport. There's four-wheel drive sport and two-wheel drive. And two-wheel drive is all the drift modes and all the etc. come in there, not really for road use. But this is just a more aggressive setup, and it instantly sharpens up the engine, etc. for the squirt out. And I do like it, and you can adjust the speed of change on this gearbox. Another thing that's really changed is just how good this 8-speed gearbox is. Anyway, here's the sprint up the hill, still in auto mode, in 4 for the moment. It'll kick down. Here we go. Yeah, brutal. You know, I saw CarWow managed to get 3.1 0 to 60 time out of this. I'm just going to put it into normal mode again. Super quick, this car, and out with the 3 cars we had at Evo magazine, you know, the performance of it surpasses what you expect from 550 horsepower, shall we say, and that 1765 kilo weight seems to evaporate. The other really nice thing on the M3, these seats, they go crazy low. I can continue going down. I feel like a midget in it. I don't know how much room I've got above me, but I am proper touring car spec. I'm 6'2" and I can barely see over the wheel. I mean, amazingly low how these seats go, and then you can adjust you know, a more normal position. But yeah, if you're into a track day junkie and I want that touring car feel, well, this car does not disappoint. Right, I'm going to go back to M1. I'm actually going to go over to manual mode here. Low gearing, yeah, 3rd. I'm up to 4,000 RPM. If I turn it into here, oh, it's sharp. You just sense the 4-wheel drive shuffling. It feels 2-wheel drive, this car, but never sort of goes leery and out of shape. It's a very good 4-wheel drive system that xDrive on this car suits it really nicely. Now this is the bumpy bit of road, so I'm going to go back to normal mode just to let it glide over. And I do like the way these are usable. You know, comfort, it's more than bearable for such an extreme car. The ride is good down here. Doesn't, you know, it's got pretty aggressive setup because the turning is very, very sharp. But yeah, it's not following cambers, it's locked on straight. It's a very nice setup. I noticed from the spec they also changed like the engine mounts and that sort of thing to give it more rigid structure so the engine doesn't move about. It's quite a common tweak. You see it on GT3s and it's on the Project 8 as well. They really looked at all sorts of incremental detail on this car to get it, the chassis, as good as they could. Right, back at M1. Into manual mode. Right, here's this little bump. Yeah, it's good. There's a lot of torque there. Through here's sharp. The way it turns in, it's a good chassis, this thing. forget that weight of 1765 kilos, you do not feel it from here. Yeah, perhaps it's time to go through some likes and dislikes. What do we start with? Well, one, the looks. During that Evo group test, I got to see this car a lot in the mirrors, and it doesn't get any better with time. I've done about 600 miles. I just don't understand the fussiness and where BMW are going. Where is that elegance that I expect from BMW? It's a cultured look. I wish they hadn't painted the bonnet. I think it would look better with solid paint, and yeah, it's just not right. A CS should be a very special thing, and this is special for the wrong reasons in the looks department. Two, yeah, the price justification. I think it's a monster premium of £30,000. Yes, it comes down to 22,000 at the time you actually compare spec to spec with an M3. But it takes some justifying, and that's the trouble with these sort of cars. Because there's a really good base car there already, are you prepared to pay that much more for the incremental improvements? The 40 horsepower is good, but you don't actually get any more torque. So you've got to really ring it to get that extra performance, and it does feel quick. You can tell the boost. I just wish it was a lift in the torque as well as horsepower. And then I can't get on with electric steering. It's noticeable that it has the electric steering. It's good, but there is a lightness and just not the detailed feedback that we used to get in the best hydraulic systems. But the likes, it's just, yeah, I'll go around here. Oh, I love how the four-wheel drive works, and the performance on offer, and the chassis. It is accomplished. I've pushed this car really hard, and at no point did I feel I was broaching its limits really on the road, and it constantly surprised by just its dynamic ability and the fact it never feels four-wheel drive. It just feels immense. Brilliant chassis on it. Another thing I really like about this car is how I can personalise the drive-in setup. You go into this menu once, you set it on your M1 and M2 buttons, and it's there. And I absolutely love that I can go that detailed. If I had to do it every time I step in it, I would not like it. But having the simplicity of the M1 and M2 button, absolutely brilliant. And I'm also going to mention just the livability with this car is another major plus. So, is it the ultimate M3? Well, it probably is the ultimate M3, but would I actually buy one? I'm tortured whether I'd actually buy it, because the premium is that much more, and I can't stand the look of it. I think I would still buy the standard M3 competition, probably in touring form, save the £25,000, not have to live with the competition seats if I wanted to stay married, and have that car, maybe tweak the engine, go and visit Lichfield or something like that. So, fantastic car. I'm not sure if it's actually worth the premium. You do get the benefit, perhaps, of better depreciation and a sort of cool factor because you have the CS model in the future. But the trouble is the standard M3 competition, it's such a good car. So there you go, that's my review of the M3 CS. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, well, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming on very soon.